story of Zacchaeus, Jesus describes his mission as coming to seek and to save the lost. Today, for this day Devo, we read Luke chapter 15, verses 11 through 32. The rest of it, that's the Prodigal Son story. And this came right after the parable of the lost sheep, which we read yesterday, and the parable of the lost coin, which we read yesterday. Seek and to save the lost. When was the last time that you found yourself longing for someone to return home to you? Have you know what that feels like? I can remember when we first got married, Kinsley and I, we were back around 2012, we got married, and so I think this was probably 2013. She made a trip to Honduras with her family, with her father on a mission trip, and I remember this was the first time that I was at home alone as a husband, waiting and longing for her to return to me. And I knew the plane schedule. I knew about what time they'd make it back to town and back to the house from the airport. And I just remember, even though I had lived on my own for quite some time, knowing that she was supposed to be there but wasn't there, was created this longing in my heart and a desire for her to return home. And there was just this exuberant joy as I welcomed her back into the house and gave her a big hug. And because someone whom I loved had returned to me. This is what is happening in the parable of the lost sheep, the parable of the lost coin, and the parable of the lost son. Even though the sheep was just wandered, the coin was misplaced, the lost son chose to leave. In all of these instances, what does the owner do? What does the master do? What does Father God do? He celebrates with joy in heaven because the lost has been found. This is what we just, last Sunday, a couple Sundays ago when we had baptism, I always like to say, we need to celebrate, we need to clap. We don't need some somber, reverent baptism. While that's all important and that's all there, I want to clap and I want to celebrate in the same way that heaven celebrates and is full of joy. Because when the prodigal son returned, you'll notice in verse 24, it says, he was lost, but now he's found. So the party began. They began to celebrate. And how awesome it is that no matter why or for how long we have strayed, we have backslidden. You may have gone through a period of time when you were far from the Lord, where maybe you grew up and you knew Christ. Maybe you got saved and baptized when you were younger, or you were a teenager, and life got the best of you. The devil took you on a midnight ride, and you found yourself going down paths that you could never have imagined having gone down. But then, just like with the prodigal son, a famine came across the land that may or may not have been decreed, or may not have been allowed by Father God for the purpose of drawing the prodigal back to him. And so God is in pursuit of your soul. And so in that desert season in your life, God is continually reaching out for you, putting people in your path to say, I love you, return to me. And then when you finally, like the prodigal son, like I, in my mid-20s, finally come to my senses and return home saying, Father, just let me in the house. I don't care if I am the servant of the servants. I'm going to be better off than I was out there eating that pig slop. Just let me in the house. And in that moment of humility and that surrender, the party begins and heaven goes crazy and there is joy abounding across the angel armies, and they're just celebrating that a new life has come, that you have come back to life. You once were lost, but now you're found. And this is for those who are newly found, but also those who had gone astray, those who had backslidden and were drawn back into the living waters of Christ. And so I love this. And I just want you to understand that the beauty of this incredibly probably most popular parable that Jesus tells. This is one for the ages. This is one for the rest of time, and it just declares that the lost shall be found, that the prodigals are always welcome back, and when they return, heaven celebrates. Heaven celebrates. And so we want to be the kind of Christians that celebrate. We don't want to be like the older brother who says, why are you celebrating him? You know what he did? He just ran off and had a whole bunch of fun. How dare you celebrate him? You never killed the fattened calf for me. We don't want to be that. We don't want to be bitter and resentful. We want to be praiseworthy because our lost brother is back. He's saved. He's in the arms of Jesus again. So we celebrate, just like at baptism. We don't look at it and say, oh, but you. No, we look at it and say, but God brought you back. He drew you home to the arms of grace. Today I learned this about Jesus, and on this day I will this. How do you fill in those blanks? Have a great Tuesday. I love you.
I am with you in the darkness. I will